what is the role potentially of government regulation? Let's talk about U.S. government regulation. We had that scene in Washington where we called the leaders of Facebook and Twitter in. Google didn't show up, as I recall.
Yes.
And they said, well, we're really, really sorry. Is there going to be regulation? Should there be regulation?
So Google did offer to send a person who was pretty knowledgeable, and they were like, well, that's not senior enough. Kent Walker's smart. They should have actually had him there because I think it would have been useful in the communication. Now, I do think that in regulation, it's very possible that some regulation could be good. It's a lot easier to do a lot of damage to the tech industry, to our position of the tech industry in the world, to the invention of the future, to this lead in this industry that we have, than it is to do help. So I think we should be very careful. So I think where the dialogue should be right now is not as much should we regulate, should we not regulate, as much as what should the target be? Like, for example, what do we want out of the social infrastructure of the social media companies? What do we want on the handling of data? What do we want on the new evolution of these technological platforms, AI and so forth? And what are some of the kind of guidelines that we say, look, we want you guys as companies telling us about these issues, reporting on them, and we want you to be more transparent about them so that we can see how we need to push you, and whether or not the push is a dialogue, whether the push is an inquiry, or whether the push is a regulation. And I think that's where the conversation needs to be.
So if there were constructive regulation, would it be on the subject of meaningful disclosure? Not just disclosure, but meaningful disclosure. That is to say, disclosure I can understand. I don't have to spend 3 hours trying to sort through this thing. And then perhaps some control to say, yes, I want that, no, I don't. Why don't we have that?
So I think the question would be to figure out, well, what kind of transparency do we think would be most helpful and most meaningful to us? Like, I do think the very first thing would be is, tell us about this stuff, and if you're not being disclosive enough, then we'll make regulation to make you disclose. And then the question is, well, is it, for example, data security? Is it an ability to have controls over about your understanding how your data is being used and your buy-in to that? Those probably are the zone, but how do you do that in the right kind of simple way that also leads to a lot of ability to innovate in the future?
So as you talk with the Sheryl Sandbergs of this world, the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, what is the discussion about how do you get in front of this instead of the appearance that you're getting dragged kicking and screaming? If we go back to the brand challenge, I think you said, how do you address that brand challenge? What could they do? What would you say to them, this is what you should do? This would get you moving in the right direction at least.
I think the key thing is to show that you're to be transparent and disclosive about that you're investing in the things that people care about. And by the way, they are. They're investing in, like, for example, election integrity. They're investing in data security. And not just to do it, but to show people you're doing it. To show people you say, I hear what your worries are, and we're working on them. And by the way, it may take us a few iterations to learn it exactly, but we care about it, and we're investing in it. And then to be talking about that. And I think they're beginning, I think they're on path to exactly those conversations.